maybe I'm here. Could you, if somebody's in here and sees me, could you make a comment and reassure me this is working? Looks like we have 10 people in here, supposedly. Hey! I made it work. All right, so the reason there were some complications is that I'm trying to, use my phone like a young person to do a live stream. And unfortunately, if you don't have 1,000 subscribers, you can't do that. I don't understand why, but I am not YouTube popular enough for that. So instead of using my lovely camera on my phone, we're using my very old laptop. But that's okay. That'll work. We'll just awkwardly move it around to show you guys the studio. I feel like I should shrink down so you can see my full studio here. So gonna actually, since I've just given a lot of people false starts of where I am, I'm gonna go ahead and make a second announcement on Twitter and also, well, yeah, I think Twitter will be fine. I'll just do it on Twitter. I just like to pretend that everybody lives on Twitter like I do and we'll all see it. All right, so give me one moment. See, where is the actual link? That's it. You'll all be very proud of me for thinking to put my computer on mute so that when I access my live stream, it wouldn't have an echo of my voice. Nobody needs that. Oh wait, that's the wrong one. I'm trying to do that. This is a patron and studio tour only event. All right. So let's see. What did I tell you guys I was going to show you? I'm so flustered from iPhone things that I'm almost forgetting what I'm doing here. I'm going to close anything that's distracting me. This is the trouble of doing this on my laptop, is I have so many things available to me that I can be very, very distracted. So Pip is usually, he's around me at all times. He's usually in the corner over there. Actually, you can see right there. It's what I like to call his chaise lounge. That's two boxes stuck on top of each other. He's not here. I actually don't know where he is, and he's usually like reliably right next to me. But did see a lot of, we want to see cool things in your studio, as opposed to just the things that I use on a daily basis. I'll probably show a little bit of both. I do have a lot of cool stuff in my studio though, so I kind of want to show you guys. Hollis, thank you for your help, because I kind of assumed that the second attempt there was being shared with a bunch of people and I didn't want it to be. I didn't really know what was going on. All right, so again, it's gonna be a little awkward because I'm gonna be like moving a laptop around and it's not the best camera, but it's better than nothing. And we'll see if we can figure out how to show you. I do have pencils from next week's Elephant Town. So I was going to try to live stream myself working on them, because I do ink traditionally, and kind of. I have kind of a weird process now and it's kind of cool. So I wanted to share it with you guys. But if we don't, then I'm probably just going to do a second trial of this. Maybe I'll just rally to get 1,000 subscribers. It sounds so stupid, but apparently if that's what it's going to take to easily use a phone to record, then that's what it takes. So it's my studio. I don't know how many of you have seen it before. I imagine we've got like hardcore people who have known me for a very long time at this point. The studio has changed quite a bit over the years, but I've lived here for like 12 years now. And the place where you are right now, where my drawing board has been, has never changed. This is like as soon as I moved in here, I'll show you. This is essentially, I think this would have been like the master bedroom. So this space back here with the windows is just too beautiful. I had to put my desk there immediately. It's like my favorite thing. So I can sit and eavesdrop on people walking by. There are a lot of very emotional relationship conversations that happen outside because this is like the first quiet street up from the bars. So people like to come up here to break up. So I've overheard a lot of really emotional conversations with people. But yeah, I've lived here for about 12 years. This is in Shepherdstown, West Virginia. Again, I'm probably going to be saying a lot of things you guys know already, but just in case there are some new people here who have never seen my face animated or seen my place before, I'll kind of give you some basics. So the town that I live in is the town that Elephant Town takes place in. I'm just in love with the town. I always wanted to have a story that was based in this town. Girls with Slingshots was kind of like fake based in here. The Mech is a bar that actually exists. The house, or like the big building that Hazel lives in, is actually right above Grapes and Grains, which is the shop she used to work at and everything. But it was always kind of set in like a Pennsylvania, like a Rhode Island shaped state that didn't exist between Pennsylvania and New York. So it was kind of just me making up a little world in my head. Of course, we never mentioned it in there, but I like to think of it as like this ideal space outside of New Jersey and Pennsylvania and still close enough that you could take the train into New York. So, where's it going with that? I don't know. I love this town a lot. I love this house a lot. And studio used to have a bed in it. I used to sleep in here, I think, maybe like 7 or 8 years ago. For a while, I thought it would be a really smart move to just sleep in the same place I worked. It wasn't that bad, but eventually it was just kind of awkward to like have to go to a different room to change. So I moved a bed back into the tiny, tiny bedroom in the back. All right, so what did I want to show you guys? I'll just kind of go from corner to corner here. Hopefully this won't be too boring for you. So I got these really, really nice, perfectly sized bookshelves for my soft covers at an antique store. And they just fit everything that I've done pretty perfectly. I have some other stuff down at the bottom there that you can see. Kind of a cheapskate, so most of the shelves in here are just these like crappy plastic things, but they're really useful. I can see what's in it beforehand, so it's kind of helpful. You may have noticed this already, but I have everything very carefully labeled. I'm a little bit of an organization freak, and at the same time, I also have like piles of unlabeled things. And some of these shelves are labeled things like, what do I have here? Boring Girls with Slingshot stuff. Projects. Open only when excited. You know what's in there? I think it's a project I was supposed to do for Oni in like 2009. So while I look very organized, I actually have a lot of cleaning up to do. Let's see. I've got very important things on top of this is just very easily reachable from where I work, such as paper clips and bobby pins to pull my hair up. I have very dry skin, so I have lotion. Very important supplies for a cartoonist. This was maybe a mess before I decided to live stream. I might have cleaned it up quite a bit for you, so it might not always look like this, but the things that I have on here are two boxes. One of them has pens that I'm actually using, and the other one has pens that I would like to think I would use, but I don't actually use. This stack in front of the mirror. The mirror is great, by the way, not just for facial expressions and things like that, but for noticing how your shoulders and neck move when you're making certain expressions. I think there's a lot of like body language that happens right in here and where your shoulders go that a lot of cartoonists kind of miss, and having that there is really helpful. So, when I'm drawing a certain expression on somebody, I try to like really get into it and see how the rest of my body changes as well. This, however, underneath the mirror, very important. It's a stack of trash paper because I don't know about you, but I get really intimidated by nice paper, and I'm much more likely to actually work on sketches if I have a stack of trash paper. Actually, I'm going to skip over and show this to you really quickly. One of the best things that I've done is clearing out these shelves to say, I don't know if you can read it or not. Nah, you probably can't read it. It says real scrappy scrap paper, more scrap paper, large and weird scrap paper. That's been really helpful. So it's usually like the backs of envelopes that I had bills come in. Anything that's flat and not covered in like tea or something like that, hasn't been peed on by a cat, is fair game. And it helps to just like scratch ideas out and get rid of them afterwards. So what else have we got? I have one sketchbook that I've been trying to dedicate to Elephant Town. So I was drawing last night, just sketching out Miranda because she's going to be the next character that we bring in. This is one of my favorite things. It's a Panasonic antique. I guess antique? I mean, yeah, it's definitely antique. I think it's 70s. Electric. It's got like the cord in the back. Pencil sharpener. This thing is awesome. I won't do it because I think it's kind of loud, but when you stick a pencil in it, the light turns on and it stops, or I guess it turns on when you're done. Like it still works. I got it because I thought it looked really cool. It turns out it actually works. And it's listed as like one of the top 5 best ever electric pencil sharpeners. So I was really impressed that it actually had a function more than just looking cool. So I feel like every artist has one of these now. The unfortunately very awkwardly sized IKEA, slide out flat files. Flat files are mad expensive and usually way, way too big for what a cartoonist wants. So this is nice because it's a decent price and everything, but the size of it is, I guess, European or Scandinavian or whatever's normal out there. It is like just a little bit too big and a little bit too small for any American size paper, but it's still pretty good. So I have, these are all totally inaccurate now. This is going to be so awkward to do with a laptop. Let's at least put my mouse somewhere innocent. So I've got like Admiral Analogs, patches, and stickers and buttons. And this is something that's like way off in the future. But one of the characters in the book works at his record shop. It's going to be called something different, but I figured this would be kind of nice to give out in the future. Admiral, Mr. Andrew is really just his name, is very kind. And, anytime that I design anything for him, he always gives me a ton of extra stuff. And he's always saying, for your patrons. So he gets Patreon. It's a stack of original watercolors that I did of Shepherdstown, areas in Shepherdstown. These are for a benefit for my friend Erica, who's been dealing with cancer for the last several years. She's way too young for what she's going through. We were going to sell them at a show in April, but then you all know what happened this year, so that did not happen yet. Hopefully in November. This is a bunch of Elephant Town stuff. I don't know if this is a little bit too awkward. This is such a weird thing to hold. All right. And of course, I can't see comments at the moment, so hopefully this isn't, you're not all screaming. So I have all of my original art in here so far, but additionally I have things like 2 of these stock backgrounds that I've created. So this is, an image that we're probably going to see several times. This is Berto's apartment, and Miranda's is actually right above it. And I think this is Berto's apartment from the indoors. Let's see if I can make this actually be seen. So this is something that I did once in a while with Girls with Slingshots, but I've gotten a lot smarter with since then, that I'll draw stock backgrounds, color them in Photoshop, and then have them ready to just drop in when I'm going to have a scene that's just really doesn't need to be redrawn. So this is something that I started doing with Girls with Slingshots as well. You can see another one in the background here, one of Berto. where instead of trying to draw the characters perfectly one time before starting a new project, I would go ahead and like, you know, sketch them and try to make them look like what I think they're going to look like. But then inevitably, whenever you put them in the comic, it seems like they kind of change design, maybe because the storytelling's different. You're starting to like share their personality when you actually have a narrative. So I think that sometimes changes the way their face looks compared to what you thought it was going to look like. So along the way, I'll usually take my favorite versions of, you know, the drawings I've already done and just put them together on a piece of paper, print it out, have it nearby so I can kind of refer to it. And that way I'm not just drawing what I originally thought they should look like when I was making the turnarounds. I'm drawing what they've actually become in the story, and it's super helpful. So, hold on a second. I guess I should check and see if you guys are saying anything. I don't want to ignore you. Scrap paper is the best. Old pencil sharpeners are also the best. They're in battle with each other for which one's the best. All right. So I can also show you, I think that you may have gotten a little hint of it, but this is this always excites people, right? I don't know. I get excited about this. I just kind of like keep track of what I've been working on. The difference between, well, there's a lot of differences, but one of the big differences right now between what I used to do with Girls with Slingshots and what I'm doing with Elephant Town is that I'm actually working way before the deadline instead of starting on the comic at 8 p.m. the night before it's due like I used to. So one thing that's tricky about that is that a lot of times I'm working ahead and forgetting that I've already thumbnailed. I actually started thumbnailing re-thumbnailing some pages a while back, forgetting that I'd already thumbnailed them, which was actually kind of cool because I got to compare the two and be like, oh, it's pretty much the same. I have a really bad memory, so I guess it's probably part of the reason I forgot, but it helps me keep track of it. I have a lot of pink pens left over from signing Girls with Slingshots books, and I don't love pink necessarily, but it matched the books really well, so I just have way too many of them, and I figured this is a good way to put them to use. So what I have is basically the page number, I guess it's like the chapter. Oh, actually, if you could tell me right now, is this backwards? Or are you guys getting this so that you can actually see that it says chapter 3, Berto and Megan? There's something that I'm curious about for the future. Yay! Cool, thank you. I'm also reassured that I didn't accidentally stop the live stream. Thanks, guys. So I've got, you know, chapter 3 up here and the page numbers all the way down. And TH is for thumbnail. What is this? I'm like trying to read it backwards on the screen. Pencil. So thumbnails and penciling, I wish I could screen share. Unfortunately, you can't do that with YouTube. I didn't realize. But I've been doing those digitally on my iPad, and that's been awesome. That's the whole reason I got the iPad, was not to do finished work, but was to be able to draw out schematics for like layouts for the pages, because it's so much easier than, you know, whenever you do it on paper, you like get one face, you're like, oh, this scene's gonna be so good. I already know exactly what it's gonna look like. And then you finish the page and you're like, it is still it's a good scene, but like it needs to be twice the size, or it needs to be a little bit smaller. And you don't want to redraw it. Once you like, inevitably your thumbnails always have so much more energy and they're just like exactly what you're looking for. And at the very least, even though you know you're probably going to lose some of that when you do the inks, you still want to have it as reference so that when you're working on the pencils and the inks, you still like remember the energy that went into it. So you don't want to like erase it and draw it twice the size. It's like a pain in the ass. So working on the iPad for that has been amazing. So at some point, maybe I can figure out how to screen share and show you guys that. So these print and scan are the two things that I also constantly forget if I've already done. So it's been very helpful to just make an entire column for, I have printed this. I'll explain the printing thing in a moment. And I have scanned it once I've inked it. The inking stage is the only thing, unfortunately, that I'm doing analog right now. And so I'm going to awkwardly try to show you guys what I do with that later on after I show you the studio a little bit. Ink it, scan it in. What does it say? Color. Color should be like 5 blocks. Coloring takes forever. Oh, God. So my week is basically Monday is kind of like my weekend. I kind of just like relax on Monday. I've updated the last few pages. I'm all done with that. I can relax. I take the time limitation off of my Instagram because I post these to Instagram as well. If you haven't seen them there, it's been a fun challenge to break up each, vertical page into just scenes that you can swipe through on Instagram. I think it reads really well. It's been super fun. Usually takes a little bit of work to get that to work, but either way, I'll put them up on Instagram, and I'll like let myself enjoy the day on Monday and like check to see if there are any comments. And sometimes, I'll get some feedback that will inspire the next week's pages, because if I have a lot of people saying like, God, the people that hated Paul really hated Paul, that's fine. None of these characters are half of these characters are going to be characters you don't like that much. And I kind of enjoy characters that you don't super, super love. But the reaction, I was like, ooh, wow, okay. I had to make sure that, like, I don't know. I just want to make sure that it goes in the right direction for him and that people, I don't know, get what I'm trying to put into him for the next several years. I'll be working on this project for quite a while. So Monday is like relax and enjoy and, read comments and stuff like that. Tuesday, I start on thumbnails for the next week's pages. Ideally, Wednesday, I get the pencils done. And the pencils, again, are also done digitally just because it's been easier to do that. I don't have to erase anything on the paper, which is nice. So by the end of the day, hopefully on Tuesday, I'll have printed out the pencils. And actually, I can show this to you now since I'm talking about it. If you haven't already seen me, I think I may have posted this to Patreon already, so maybe you guys have already seen this. But what I do is basically take the pencils, and funny enough, my view is backwards, so this looks forwards to me. But I'll take the pencils and print them out a certain size on the back of the Bristol board that I'm going to be working on. This Bristol board has 2 different sizes, and I just realized I actually printed these on the wrong side. Well, all right. They're not too different, luckily, but I guess I was going to find that out shortly. One side's a little bit rougher, so it'll eat up your pens a little bit faster. And then this side, the incorrect side that I printed on, is a little bit smoother. But that's all right. It's not a huge difference. But I'll print it backwards, like flip it horizontally, so that I can work on it this way on top of the light box. So basically, I'll just have this on a light box, and I'll be able to see, the pencils in the background. And if you can rig something up so I can show you guys how I do that, it'd be kind of fun to show you. We'll see how it works. So yeah, by Tuesday, thumbnails actually take a pretty long time because sometimes I'm also tweaking the writing. Wednesday, I'll be doing pencils, hopefully print them out by then. Sometimes pencils go into Thursday because I also really want to take my time on that. Like the inking is so easy once you've got the pencils done. The pencils are, honestly, they're to the point where I could just use those if I wanted to go fully digital. But I love the analog, traditional scritch on the paper and everything. And it's really nice to have the originals finished so that I can sell them in the future. I also hand letter everything, so that's always been, for me, it feels really nice to be able to sell a page that actually has the story on them. So it's nice to have that. But I'll take care of all of that the next day, Thursday, hopefully. Sometimes it goes to Friday. Inking always takes like 2 hours, and that's it. Just way too short, because I'm pretty quick at it. And then I'll scan it in, and then the next few days are just me angry coloring because it's not my thing and I really don't like doing it. And that's over there on that machine that I'll work on coloring. I feel like that this fairly definitely the most expensive computer I've ever purchased is basically like a giant hard drive and a coloring machine, and that's pretty much all I use it for. So that's pretty much my week. See a couple comments. I'm going to read them real quick. I don't know how to say this. Inzaj, I'm going to assume that's maybe not your name. Maybe it is, though. I have written 5.5, 6 chapters so far. So we're coming up on chapter 4 soon. That'll be Miranda's chapter. Right now we're still in chapter 3. There's another thing that I wish I could show you guys, like a screen share of. If you watch the pencil to pencil interview that I did with Jamar recently, I think I was able to share that with them, that I use a program called Scapple, and I basically just have this. It's essentially if you had a white erase board with a bunch of post-it notes, but a digital version where you can just continue to scroll. You're not limited by the size of the white erase board. That's basically what it is, and you can move things around. You can connect them if they have something to do with each other, which there's a lot of in this story. So I have it. You can see Miranda's story goes the whole way because I think I've got hers pretty much figured out. The other characters, a lot of them have things that need to happen at certain times. There's a lot of continuity in this. We'll see if I manage to make that work because that's not my strong point, but hopefully it will be. So the ending is completely written. I've been I've been tweaking the ending for so long that I know what that feels like. But the middle, there's just a bunch of little things that will be happening and I can kind of move them around. So I basically just have a skeleton and I'm kind of enjoying, there's always some sort of, it's a little more magical to write Girls with Slingshots like on the fly in part because I would be so excited about writing it at that moment, knowing that people would read it the next day, that it's just a little bit more energy in it. I decided to start working on actually putting out the pages this year instead of waiting until I was finished with the script because I think it needed a little bit of that. I kind of wanted to, without being strayed by reader reactions, there's some sort of kind of alchemical thing that happens when, this is probably not the right word. My DM in D&D would probably be very mad at me for saying alchemical and not knowing what I'm saying, but there's some sort of magic that happens when your creation goes from your brain to the brain of somebody, of a readership, of people who are reading, an audience. And you can kind of try to see it in their eyes. While you're not going to be accurate necessarily, I don't know, you can see your characters differently once they're actually out of your head. So it's almost a little bit like therapy. You guys are like my therapist by seeing what's been in my head for such a long time. And it kind of sometimes changes the direction of where they're going to go. So, oh, good. You're both asking the same story or same question. Perfect. All right. I'll show you a little bit more of my studio and then maybe give you guys just some time to sit and chat with me and ask me some questions. So one of my favorite things of the studio is the bookshelf, also an IKEA thing I found. Pretty sweet. It fits perfectly in this weird space between the fireplace with my fake fire and the wall. It actually has to be squeezed in gently. So I did a big makeover recently where I decided to go through my graphic novels. I knew I was going to be working on a graphic novel this time around instead of a comic strip. And I just wanted to find the graphic novels that inspire me the most. So that is this shelf right here. I can bring you in closer to show you a little bit of my favorites. So I've got, actually we'll go real close. This is the most awkward thing to do with a laptop instead of a phone. So I've got Habibi by Craig Thompson. Right next to it, what you can't see is I've got a couple of Kyle Baker stories, which are I think all from the 90s. And Ghost World. I've got Johnny Wanderer, the complete collection. It's beautiful. I've actually never taken it out of there. I should probably just sit down and enjoy reading it. Not a graphic novel, but a collection of some of my favorite autobio stories. I've got some, I don't know if I'm saying this right, Guy Delisle, I'm assuming. He's French. A couple of his books are really great. This one's Summer by Gillian, the Tamaki cousins. I think they're cousins. I can't remember if they're cousins or sisters. Laurie Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me, I think came out last year, as well as Be Prepared and maybe even Spinning. I think 2019 was a pretty big year for really good graphic novels. Be Prepared is Laurie Dean is excellent also, but Vera, I always forget how to say her last name, Brosgol, is freaking amazing, and that book is perfect. It's just from top to bottom perfect. So I've got Blankets because I love Blankets. It was the first really long graphic novel I think I ever read. And when Elephant Town is done, it's actually going to be this size. It's probably going to be about 500, 600 pages. So you can see I've tabulated all the places that I was really inspired by Craig's work. I've got Dykes to Watch Out For and Fun Home and Are You My Mother by Alison Bechdel. And we've got Street Angel. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Street Angel by Jim Rugg. We've got an entire Lucy Knisley selection over here. We've got a few Julia Wertz books. You've got tucked back here, Eleanor Davis's You and a Bike and a Road. And then we've got Can't We Talk About Something More Pleasant by Rose Chast. Carolyn Noack wrote Girl Town. I don't remember how I got that, but I think it was by accident, and I was just blown away by it. I thought it was great. Jim Mafu's Los Angeles Ink Stains, and Dar, of course, my very old versions of Dar, Erica Moen, and Perry Bible Fellowship. So not all of them are graphic novels, but they're all things that inspire the heck out of me. Got above that, actually, I kind of have, of course, I have my book, because, come on, it came out so pretty, I had to have it up there. And Adrian Tamina, whose name I just learned how to pronounce correctly, is one of my favorites. He also makes very unlikable main characters, which I appreciate. Sorry for the tits up there. I didn't mean to include those, but there is a lot of figure drawing, such as the red book up there is Steven Silver's figure drawing book. At Shortcomings, also by Adrian Tamina. This really cool old scale that I don't know if you can see, but on the box it says it was made March 22nd, 1981. That is the last day that I had not been born. I was born the very next day after the rates were set on that. I saw it as a sign. It's also really pretty and it still works. So if I send you out a package, I'm using that to measure it and figure out how much it weighs. Got a bunch of watercolor stuff back here. So I've got Andrew Wyeth is one of my favorite artists, and then just a bunch of great Cody by Jared Cullum. It just came out last week, I think. Really pretty book. Got a whole bunch of like more wacky or just like really beautifully expressive books over here. A lot of Dustin Harbin. Got, I think these are all tutorials for drawing. This is the only place where I could fit all of my Richard Thompson stuff, and some animation books, some Egon Schiele. I also don't know if I'm saying his name right. We have all of the classic stuff up here for comics for the most part. Zitz and Calvin and Hobbes, Dennis the Menace. I think there's some Peanuts in there, and some tutorial writing books next to that. I think that's the majority of what I got up here. So see if I've got anything else to show you guys. I've got my favorite armchair. Pretty great. People keep thinking this was done by Pip. It's not done by a cat. This is one of my best friend's family chairs. And I think they got it from Denmark. She grew up or she spent some time in Italy, I guess, when she was a baby. And they picked up these chairs in the 70s. And this is her dad's favorite place to sit. So this is all just from his, I can't tip that, but it's from where his elbow would sit while drinking red wine. I think it's kind of a charming story. This closet back here, if I can show you, I'm not sure if I can manage to get this well lit enough to show you, but this really cool thing. I was trying to find a way to like, it's a weird closet. Like there's this whole section of like maybe 2.5 feet back that you'd never be able to get anything. Like you'd have to only have enough clothes to fill up here to here because you wouldn't be able to see anything back there. But I found a baker's shelf with the big metal trays in it. And you just pull it right out. It's pretty sweet. It was $80. It was partially broken, but it fits in there perfectly. So I've got a way to store all sorts of stuff. This actually hasn't been opened very much because that's where I put all my convention stuff. This year's not quite. This would actually be SPX weekend right now. So I'm glad to have you guys around because at least I feel like I'm talking to some comics people. This is a great poster by Jamie Noguchi of Monica Gallagher. Pretty sweet. Below that, I have my large format printer, which I pretty much only use for printing those Elephant Town pages backwards. I feel a little bad because it is a really great printer, but I am done making prints. That is such a racket. I have to show off this. This is really sweet. So aforementioned Lucy Knisley very kindly, very nicely made me from scratch an iPad. I don't know what you call this, iPad holder? iPad thing. I'm gonna put this down so you can kind of get a view of it because it's really cool. She learned how to use her mom's router, and I gave her the dimensions of my iPad, and she routered out this exact size. I hot glued some foam strips in here with a little hole cut out for the camera so that it wouldn't move around very much when I put this in here. And it's pretty nice. So I use this all the time as just like a nice lap board for my iPad. It's extremely nice of her. She's made a few, I think, at this point. So what else we got? We got all of my calendars that are empty. No, not that, but that's probably just a bunch of reminders to take out the trash or something. Oh, your period's coming. Great. Good to know. Thank you. Got a little tiny printer. Got this excellent scanner. If you are somebody who works in traditional media, I highly recommend it. It's the Epson, I don't know what it's called. Epson V600 Photo. He was going to make him sound like a car or something. It's the only scanner I think I've ever found that actually scans in colored pencils and watercolor and gouache and stuff like that really well, so you don't have to do as much work in post-production. They call it post-production in Photoshop. You know what I'm talking about. Obviously, there are some little McPagers up there, some early ones. Let's see. Saw that you have some comments. Can you post a picture of the shelf sometime? Lots of good stuff in there. A few I don't recognize. Are you talking about JC? These shelves or the shelves that are the IKEA? This is fun. I can just point IKEA shelves. Let me know and I'll see what I can do. I too love the big calendars because then I can see what's not coming up this year. But that's okay. We're all in the same boat, right? All right, what else do I got? Just a couple more things. Got this. I do not use this, but it's really nice to have this pull out keyboard. Overflow now. My gigantic iMac. I'm getting maybe talked into doing a PC for the next time that I have a giant computer because it was a pain in the ass. This is kind of earlier this year. I really wanted to get a shelf that I could attach to the wall, and I found everything online. Just the right things to do everything up with, and all of it's on back order, so understandable. But I did find a use for these gigantic Girls with Slingshots boxes. That's been holding them up for a while. Works pretty well. And I got one last thing. Well, actually, we also have the calendars that I put up here recently. I feel pretty proud of that. It's a total hack job, but it's working pretty well. They can just kind of hang there. They're white erase, so I can just. I use these so much, though. I'll reschedule or refill them out every couple of weeks. I'll redo the whole thing. It's just nice because I sit right here and I can actually read it from there. Not that my eyes are so old, but I can't always see all the way back there. That's pretty far away. All right, so I do have a light in this closet. I figure. There we go. Oh, there's still batteries in it. Awesome. So this is my closet full of originals. Again, if you've known me for a while, you've probably seen this already, but top to bottom. I also got all my paper down at the bottom here. I had so much leftover gigantic reams of, I guess, pads of Bristol board that I have not needed to buy more since Girls with Slingshots. I have plenty for Elephant Town. Yeah, these are all originals of Girls with Slingshots and Bat Boy, and eventually I'm sure Elephant Town will go in here too. And I believe that's about all I have for you for a studio tour. Pip has not come up here. I'm a little bit disappointed, but only do so much. So we'll see if he comes over. If not, then maybe I'll take you guys for a little stroll through the house. But since we're here, and since there are comments over here that you can fill up, let me read over what you guys have said just to make sure I'm not missing anything before I send you off to ask questions. What's your favorite graphic? Oh, yeah, I should actually put like a list of my favorite graphic novels. I mean, that was the majority of them, but. Oh, JC, thank you. I don't know where the hell the mic is on this thing. Hopefully that didn't happen too often, but also hopefully I'll be able to do this with a phone instead of a awkward ass laptop next time. But thank you for telling me. All right, so if you have any questions for me, feel free to ask them. This is a good time because I'm actually paying attention now and not just holding a laptop and moving around. I'm going to take a drink of water while you possibly type. All 15 of you. This is a small group. This is great. Either you have long questions or you don't have any questions because I answered all your questions. Oh, I should ask too, aside from the times where I just put my hand smack on the microphone, apparently, is my voice too quiet? I spend a lot of time alone, like quietly talking, muttering to myself. So in my head, my voice is perfect volume, but I don't know how you guys are hearing. How long did it take to get your studio into this configuration and get things moved around? Oh, thanks, Jack. Good to see you too. I'm glad to see your name here. Volume is great. Awesome. Thank you. I feel like it took a long time to get this going. And actually, I didn't point this out, but this was also the year that I was going to have real countertops put here. Instead, it's just planks of wood that I had in my garage that somewhat fit. So that's still like a little bit of a work in progress. I'm actually a little grateful that we're doing the November studio tour not in person because I really wanted to have those done by then. But it's been a work in progress. This whole house has been a work in progress. You know, I moved in kind of not broke, but like I had just sold the first Girls with Slingshots volumes, the very first books, and made enough money to move out of my small apartment. But I moved in with my brother. Actually, he moved into the back, and we didn't have enough money to furnish this place, so it's been empty. It's been so empty. There have been so many rooms that just didn't have anything. It's a huge house. Don't be mistaken to think I live in a mansion. It's just a very large, old house that for some reason has very low rent compared to what it should have. Luckily, it's got a 2-car garage, which is filled to the brim with Girls with Slingshots books that I have to travel in order to sell, so they're going to be there for a while. But I kind of had this like mindset of I need to find as much furniture cheap as possible, but it took a really long time. There's a lot of stuff in here that's either either I found it in the alleyway because there's a lot of good trash. You've got some rich people in this town who just put things out in the alleyway that's perfectly good, like the where is it? That little thing. I can't. Little tiny table. It's in the alleyway. It's great. It's a little scratched up. Works perfectly. But I had to like accumulate things slowly and try to find the right things to fit in here. And I think in my head, I was like, oh, you can't just use plastic, shelves. No, they're great. They're right there. They're already made. I'm not going to like try to find perfectly fitted shelves for, it's going to take forever to try to find just the right size of what I need. But it's mostly looked like this, I think, for the past maybe 5 years or so. So it took a good 8 years, if I'm doing math right, to get this. I think I've always had the paper calendars. That's one of those big desk calendars. I actually just got 2021 right there. I basically just carefully ripped them off. I spend one day just in the afternoon, about an hour or so, very carefully hole punching exactly the same place as the year before up at the top, and then reinforcing the holes, with little hole reinforcers. It sounds weird, but and then just hanging them all up. So it's just like a cheap big paper calendar, like desktop calendar. Yeah, curb shopping here is real good. I also live on the alley, so anytime I'm walking back from anywhere, I'm already getting it's like an ongoing flea market in my town. Just walking up the alley. Favorite framed, oh yeah, I didn't show you guys my favorite framed art that's right in front of me, actually. I mean, I also didn't point out the amazing stripped poster that I got. This is, I don't know if any of you guys have seen it was on Netflix for a while. My friend Dave Kellett and his friend Frederick put together this awesome documentary a long time ago, and I had a little bit part in it, and he wound up giving me one of the posters, which is done by Bill Watterson. It's freaking beautiful. So whenever I look back there, I'm just mad inspired by it. It's watercolor. It's a great story too. I guess Dave actually asked him, would you mind doing the art? Thinking, no, of course he's not going to do the art. There's an interview with Bill Watterson, which, if you don't know, is extremely rare in their documentary. And Bill was like, yeah, sure. We just went ahead and did this watercolor drawing back there, and sent it to Dave in the mail. Just sent him a damn painting. So I think it's a pretty great story, but it's really beautiful. Let me bring this back here so you guys can take a closer look at it. Now, of course, we got a window glare on it, but kind of get the idea. I love that he's got, I didn't even notice this until the other day, but like this straight side and so many like curves on the other side is such a classic rule that I don't know how to actually talk about. So I'm just going to say straight on one side and bumps on the other side is a great move. But the artwork that I have around me, oh, there's a mirror right in front of me, so I can show you guys this. Oh, just keep seeing all the way down. I can actually see what I'm showing you guys. I bought the first original, I guess it counts as a Johnny Wander, right? By Yuko and Ananth. They came to me at TCAF one year. Yuko came running up to me right before the show started, and she was like, "Hey, I want to sell my originals. I brought them with me, but I don't know what price." And I was like, "What size are they?" She said 9.5, or 9x12. I was like, "Okay, actually, it doesn't matter what size they are. They're so beautiful. They should be at least 200 a piece." And she's like, "Really?" I was like, yeah. Your stuff is gorgeous. Do it." And she's like, "Okay." And she runs back, and I was like, "Ah, shit. I really want to buy one of those. I should have told her cheaper." But I was very pleased to purchase one of these. So it's the first page of Girl with a Skeleton Hand. So that is inspiring me. And then I've got one of my favorite artists. Hopefully we can see this without too much glare. Richard Thompson of Cul-de-sac. And I hope that I'm going to try to figure out where the microphone is, so I'm not just putting the thumb on top of the microphone. But story behind this is, since we were talking about SPX earlier, this was SPX, I don't know which year. I guess he didn't sign it with a date, but I'm sure you can't read this. But I came over to him and I was like, I really want to buy 2 originals. And Richard's just like this sweet, kind of mousy, like quiet, nice guy, super nice guy, and very modest. And I was like, I can only afford one. I think they were like 100 a piece, which, is a steal because this stuff is gorgeous. And I went through his whole stack. I was like, okay, I've got 2 of them. If you can just like put them aside, I'll decide which one I want and I'll come back. So I left, and he was like kind of not flustered, but he's just like, oh, okay. And I came back after deciding which one I wanted, and he'd signed them both out to me so that I had to take one for free because he's just the sweetest. So this is an original by Michael Gatos. Again, I'm going to see if I can get this glare free. It's from the series Alias, which is maybe the only, top 2, whatever they call them, Marvel and DC series I ever read all the way through. I love his style. It's so loose. Again, I can't see what I'm showing you, so I hope that one of these angles is not too glary. I picked this one. It was actually cheaper than the rest because there's no action, but I liked it because it's got a really great background shot up there. And I love seeing how different artists tackle backgrounds. It's not my forte. So now I've got, let's see if I can move this over without tipping over my water glass. This is Brett Parson. It's either Brett Parson or Brett Parsons. I can't remember, but this is something I did for Inktober, not last year, but the year before. It's stupid good. And I think he sold them for like $60 a pop or something way too low. Let's see if I can bring this up front. I just have it on a clipboard because I haven't found a good frame for it yet, but it's like, I don't think I definitely never owned original artwork where somebody did the whole like cut out the screen tones thing. So you can't even tell that it's cut out, but the grays in here are all screen tones that he's just carefully sliced up. And, I don't know anything about this stuff. I think it's adherent on the back, or adhesive on the back. So it just kind of adheres immediately. Adheres? Yeah. Anyway, he's amazing. He's so good. So I think he's the artist on Tight Girl now. I'm really bad at knowing. I'm a bad fan. I don't really know what's going on with any of my favorite artists, but he's definitely one of my favorites. I knew you guys would like cul-de-sac there. All right, let's see what else is in here that I'm missing. Do you do all of your work in the studio, or do you use other parts of your house or around town? Eric, thanks for asking. A little bit of all of it. Obviously, there are certain things I can only do in here, like the inking. And actually, I will probably just drag out my process soon to show you what I'll do with that. The inking, because it's on this gigantic light board, I have to do in here. But because of that awesome lap board that Lucy made me, I can. This has been great. I think the other day I was working on a comic out in my yard next to a fire because it was a nice cool night. So I've been able to work pretty much anywhere. But admittedly, most of my thumbnails and pencils are done over here because why wouldn't I? It's so comfortable. Back when everything was open, I would occasionally go out. The mech is actually technically open, and I've been a couple of times, and I feel a little guilty about this, but things are pretty, like the numbers are really low here. Things have been pretty safe. I feel a little guilty about this, but it's been really easy to just kind of like be careful going out and still feel safe going out because we have such a low case count out here. So the mech was already very, very COVID friendly to begin with, or I guess COVID unfriendly. They basically just put like shower curtains around the bar in the front, but the backyard is really what people come for in the first place. It's just beautiful, and it's already spaced out so much. You have like tables for small groups that are spaced out a good like 10 feet away from each other. So I've been there a few times, and I've worked there a few times now, and I'm hoping that whenever we have a vaccine or whatever things get back to kind of normal, I can go back over there and work again because it's a really nice, relaxing place to work. And actually, it's even quiet enough. Right now, it's been especially quiet because we don't have as many tourists. So the only people over there are all townies. And it's just been small groups of people. You can go on a perfect night on a Saturday, and there'll be like 5 people there. Not great for their business, but really nice for us. Have you been inspired by the overheard combos while sitting in your studio? Caitlin, yeah, I haven't really used any of them in my work yet. But first of all, I wouldn't be surprised if I get, something in the next couple of years that winds up going in. And second of all, I have plenty of ideas for the future. Stripped is a fantastic documentary. I agree, Jeff. Liked it a lot. Same with Hollis. Cul-de-sac. MacBook Air. Oh, on the left side. Thank you, JC. 2 little dots next to the headphone jack. Well, I'll be. I thought that's where it breathed. Thanks for that note. All right, so I'm going to take out, because this is something that you guys didn't get to see since it's underneath my drawing board. I'm going to take out my light board because this is something that I just got this year. I'm going to awkwardly sit you over here. Laptop nostrils. Exactly. Let's see if this is kind of an okay view. Pip has still not come up here. I'm a little bit, maybe he's a little shy. I don't know. So there's a nice shelf underneath here. I guess you can actually see it, where I can store this thing. Oh, and actually, well, I don't know if I'm going to use it today, but I also have this really, this thing is amazing. I'm going to push you back for a moment so you can kind of get how big it is. My friend Rayford gave this to me because he was moving, and he apparently never uses it, or never used it. It's just a giant board that this thing is already, my drawing board is huge to begin with, but this is great for occasionally when I'm working on the light board. If I want to have a little bit more of an angle, ideally in the future, if I ever want to travel somewhere and work, I can bring this with me. It's a bit heavy, but it'll do the job. It's quite nice for that. So let's see if I can set this up in a way that you can at least kind of get an idea of what the process of inking is for me. I think that kind of works. I didn't show this off, but the lamp above also it's on right now, but it's on a really low setting. Something that my boyfriend Luke gave me a couple years ago for Christmas, and it's been amazing. It has turned up a little bit. So this is the bright lamp, but I can also change. I'm not sure if it's going to be. I'm guessing the camera will probably try to, compensate. But right now it's very yellow, a little bit less yellow, a little bit more white, and that's like very, very white. But then you can turn down the brightness, which is perfect because hopefully this won't blind you. This also has, kind of see, the power button. You just kind of push down and it'll actually darken it or lighten it. So I'll put it on full lightness and put one of these totally backwards printed on the wrong side printed out pencils here. Let me see if I can maybe put you guys a little taller. This is why we have so many Girls with Slingshots books here, because they're so thick that I can use them as stands for anything. I think that might work a little bit better. There we go. So I'll show you a couple of little tricks I learned along the way. First thing is, now that I know I printed this on the wrong side, I should probably find, so I have a whole bunch of scrap Bristol board, the same stuff that I use for my final work. This is actually printed the wrong direction. One of the first pages from Elephant Town. And because I don't always remember which pens are the newest, in order to find one that's fresh enough that I can use it, and it isn't too dull, actually what I'll probably do is turn that up and turn this off right now, is that I'll just use a scrap page and lightly, these are zebra, I never know what to call them, but they're the sparkly dark blue barrel zebra pens. I think it's called Superfine is what they call the nib. So these can be really, really thin. This is kind of thin, but this one's definitely been broken in a little bit. Or they can just be really thick, and actually this one is quite thick. So what I'm going to do to indicate that is I have these really thin rolls of masking tape, and I'll just put this around here to let myself know this is a very thick pen now because it's been worn in quite a bit. This one's not quite as thick. So I do this before pretty much every project that I work on inking, just to test out, see where everything's at. So if I need to do like an external line or like with a close-up, you always want to have the lines be a little bit thicker because you're closer. I don't know how to explain that, but for some reason it looks a lot better. So it's nice to just kind of have these already mapped out so you know which ones would be better for those thick lines. And I mean, all of these are going to be able to get a thick line. I'm mostly looking to see which ones are the newest ones to find out which ones I want to use. These ones don't have tape on them, so we'll see. It's still a little thick. So this one was probably what I used last week. And what I use the brand new ones for is eyes and mouths and noses, anything that needs to be a little bit on the thin side. This one's still pretty fresh. So I'll be using that one for thinner lines. So some of the other pens that I use, I still just go to microns for lettering. And what I'm probably going to do is just letter in front of you guys and then cut it short and look to see if you can find Pip if he's still not up here. So I use the 01, 03, and 05 for the most part. I'm lying. That's not true. I don't use the 01. Grab the wrong one. Oh, wait. There we go. So 3 I would use for like a mumbling or, some sort of like whispering. 5 is just going to be my standard text. And then an 08 is going to be for boldface and also for the outside of the word balloons. So I'll have these nearby. Got a nice kneaded rubber eraser. And of course a whiteout. I was really relieved to find that Bill Watterson actually he had a show with Richard Thompson years ago, and I think this is while Richard was still alive, at the OSU campus cartooning museum. And they had set it up. They did a really great job with it. They set it up so there was like a display case with all of his supplies, with all of Bill Watterson's supplies in the front. Now I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I don't think they had anything for Richard Thompson's supplies, but they just had his artwork in with Bill Watterson's. And Watterson had made all these little, I guess they made the placards, but he made all these quotes for each item that was in the display case. And one of them was, this crappy white. I don't think it was this. It was still, it's like opaque white or something like that. And he had this really just clever, funny little comment about what it does and what you use it for. And basically just said that no cartoonist has ever found anything better than this. And this is subpar, but we don't have any other alternatives really. If you've ever worked with whiteout and tried to draw over top of it, it's always kind of a clusterfuck. So I was glad to hear that I'm not the only one who has that problem. All right, so I'm going to darken this. I'm also going to check in here and make sure you guys aren't asking questions that I'm ignoring. Laptop Nostrils would be a great band. Oh, wondering about the lamps. Great. So actually, I can turn this up really quickly. Hello, Rosie. I hope that Pip comes out to say hi to you. I can just tilt this upwards. That's useless. That's just a bright light. Let's go over here to show you. There we go. It's so sleek you can barely even see it, but it's really nice. Let's see if you can find out what the top of it says. Is there a name on this thing? I don't know. Girl, if you want to contact me later, I will look up the name for you and let you know what it is. Luke bought one and then I just coveted it until he decided to give me one for Christmas. All right, so these things are my favorite. Meredith Grant had one that she left at a friend's studio in East Hampton up in Massachusetts. And I borrowed it while I was visiting, and I was just like, oh shit, I need to buy one of these. These are great. I don't actually know what they're called. It is See-Through is the name of the brand. So I had this old one. I bought a newer one that's a little bit more clear because this is, I don't know if you can tell, but yeah, you can't really tell in there. They both look nice and transparent. This one is really worn out, so it's actually kind of yellow, and it's got some marks on it and stuff. So I very carefully scored it, not halfway, but what would this be? I don't know. I scored it at a certain length to fit into a sketchbook so that I could take it with me, because this is obviously kind of awkward to travel with. Really useful at home. What I like it for is that you can, I don't know if you can see it from there, but you can just cheat as long as you have a straight edge of a piece of paper. You don't need to measure anything. As long as the straight edge lines up with one of the straight lines in the grid, you've got a straight line. I really enjoy that. So I did forget one other pen that I have, and this one's maybe a little worn in at this point. I should probably have 2 pieces of tape on the end. Is Graphic One. So it's another, you probably can't see that at all. It's another Micron. It doesn't say Micron on it. It says Pigma, but I guess they're the same company. I don't really know how that works. So I have this piece of cloth, just a rag down here that hangs, that I use to clean off the ruler with after I use it every time. I'll show you what I mean. So I get these down. It's usually the first move that I do is just, so you probably can't see, but I'm just gonna wipe it on this rag that's on my leg. But I go ahead and do the panels first just because, I don't know, it kind of gets a boring part out of the way. Which is kind of nice. I just realized that one of the things I was going to show you guys with the lettering, I actually failed to do on this page. I usually print out guides, kind of like if you're familiar with an Ames lettering guide. I'll tell you, I'm not, because I do not have time to draw out a guide like that. But this kind of traditional method of drawing, I was going to say 3, but I think it's actually maybe 4 lines for any text. as a guideline. So you like have the top of a capital letter, the midline where like the top of an A or an E would be, a lowercase, the bottom line where all of them sit, and then like a line below that for where the tail of a Y or Q ends. Um, I do not have time for that. So I drew one out in my pencils template since I'm doing that on the iPad on Procreate. And I usually overlay it over top of the text so that I have a little bit of a guide. But I totally forgot to do that section of that stage of penciling. Luckily, as you can kind of see, this is really short conversations that we're having here, so it's not like a huge block of text where that would actually be a lot more useful. All right, so I've had a lot of really nice compliments through the years about my lettering, which I appreciate because I feel like I do put quite a bit of work into it. I used to have abysmal lettering. And one of the main things you want to do when you're hand lettering is you have to treat the letters like their artwork, which is why it's really important that you have everything, even if you're using, actual pencil or blue line pencil or whatever, that you have the script completely finished, completely edited. You're not going to be trying to change something in the middle. Girls with Slingshots, you could always tell when I like decided to change one word because it would just be a little bit off, or like it would start to like, I don't know, just not look very good, not be very legible. Um, my boyfriend and I have been going through a lot of old TV shows that I somehow just missed throughout the early 2000s. Well, I didn't have a TV for a very long time, and we now have a smart TV, which is weird for us. But anyway, we've been watching through all these old shows, and one of them that I wanted to see was Arrested Development. And we just started. He warned me beforehand that the newer version, I guess the one for Netflix, isn't very good. And I was like, well, it'd be interesting to see what a not very good version of this is. He's like, all right, let's go ahead and watch it. You let me know if you don't want to watch any more of it. And something that I noticed that was so bad about it was that I don't know if it's like mixed differently, the volume was weird or what, but a lot of the characters, you couldn't understand what they were saying. And, it means that the hard work that the writers went through to make this a really funny script, in certain areas, you couldn't hear what they were saying. So it was just gone to waste. And I realized it's really similar to bad lettering. So, when you're doing hand lettering, if you're going to do hand lettering, make sure that you're going to take the time and the patience to really focus on what you're doing, and make sure that you're not closing off an E by. Actually, I should probably show this too. I usually do a little bit of practice first. You can see that I've done a whole bunch over here just to kind of prepare myself. There is a little bit of speed that you still want to have because you don't want it to be like, if you're going so slowly, you're probably not going to make it look very natural, and you're also probably going to bleed the pen a little bit. But I feel like E's are a really good practice, or O's, to make sure that you're kind of in the right headspace before you letter. So I don't know if you can see, but basically the difference between like that E and that E is that this one is a little bit closed off. That's going to make it just slightly harder to read. And it doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but in my experience, I think it actually does change the experience of reading it. So, all right. So the other thing is you cannot be listening to music with, with words or like watching TV or anything like that in the background. I feel like it's way too easy to get distracted by words. Don't have a conversation with somebody else while you're doing this. So I'm going to sit here and very quietly just go ahead and letter the first few. I'm going to practice over here first. All right. All right, so that's the first one. And I'm just going to outline the word balloon. Word balloons are really hard too. Trying to get it so that it doesn't feel like one side is lopsided is really tricky. So I'm actually going to practice that really quickly too. think especially getting the pointers to like look natural, still thin out at the end is pretty tricky. All right. And also I really encourage people to, you know, tilt your page around as much as you need to so that your wrist is moving in a natural movement. I also hold my breath while I do this, so all right. I got that a little too close to the top, but I'll probably just change that in Photoshop. It'll be a big deal. It also made the Y kind of suck, so I'll change that also in Photoshop most likely. That is how you do that. I'm not going to try to draw the rest of it yet because I actually spend a lot of time thinking really hard. I work in total silence. I like to think that I have kind of like um, a mental radio station going on in my head. I always have music going on in there, but it's even if I really want to work with music, I'll be like, oh, you know what album would be really good to listen to right now? And then I'll just totally forget to turn it on. So it does help though, especially when you're working on the inks, because while you generally should have, just like with the lettering, you should have the pencils pretty much finished, like to a pretty complete. Well, I do anyway. It helps me quite a bit. Um, you're still going to add a little bit, like you, if you get really into the story and you really think about what's going on and really think about how the characters feel, you're going to wind up changing little things about, you know, an eyebrow or like a little flick of the corner of the mouth or whatever, or even just like body language. There'll be some times that I'll go ahead and just bring a pencil in, and I just use cheap ass, you know, big mechanical pencils. If I want to change something in here, I'll go ahead and, you know, sketch it out and turn off the light and turn this light up so I can see and fix it up. All right, so that's pretty much a good tour of what my process is like every week. I'm gonna check back over here for comments. How do you generally warm up before starting? So I guess you've pretty much seen, Mara, now what I do. I should honestly be, this is really great, um, practicing more. I think that I should probably like, I mean, luckily, you know, this isn't really useful for this chapter, but doing little things like this where I'm just trying to get used to drawing characters so that the shorthand is kind of memorized would be more helpful. So I'm trying to get in the practice of drawing the characters over and over again just to like get kind of a muscle memory going. But yeah, I definitely encourage practice. It's something I never did with Girls with Slingshots, and I think I've kind of been afforded the luxury of having a little more time to practice here. And I feel a lot more proud of my artwork now for Elephant Town than I did for Girls with Slingshots. So as much as I loved Girls with Slingshots and I was really happy working on it, and it is definitely much funnier than this book's going to be, which is kind of a bummer. There'll still be funny parts in this book, but I think that I could have really upped my art game if I had just practiced a little bit more and taken more time. It says you're also curious about the desk lamp and the kind of light that I prefer to work with. Yeah, and this is, oh, for watercolor, that's a good call too. I'm not very good at that. I feel like if the colors are off a little bit, I'll just fix them in Photoshop. I'll be honest. But I generally just, you know, flick these until it's something that feels right. I like that I change it every time I change the temperature of the light on here. The camera just tries to change it back to what it was. All right, so if you guys would like, we can go on a quick run through the house to try to find Pip, because I feel like I promised you guys some Pip and you didn't get any yet. So, Jack, thanks. I have not always been this careful, but it does really pay off. All right, let's go for a little walk real quick. You can also see the rest of my house, which is not as clean as my studio, but definitely has some charming parts. I'm putting shoes on because I like to tell people that my house is like a summer camp. There's probably some grass on the floors. Definitely some cat hair. Pip is indoor outdoor. He might be outside, in which case I can show you my backyard. Or maybe he's just hanging out here. So this room is exactly like my studio upstairs. As you can see, instead of books, I have DVDs and VHS tapes, but everything is pretty much the same because we're right below. And there's Pip, in a place where he never hangs out. I don't know why. I don't know why he's here, but here he is. Here's this guy. Real nice, grainy, crappy shot, trying to compensate for just how dark my cat is. But at least you can kind of see his face. So there he is. He looks so excited. Did I just wake you up from a nap, buddy? I'm sorry. Well, thank you guys so much for coming. I'm going to tilt this up a little bit so you can see my face. There we go. 2 faces in 1. Super appreciate you guys being patient with me and helping me figure out how to do this. I'll probably do a second one so that I can figure out if the phone would work, because it's a lot easier to kind of move around and stuff. But I think this went pretty well for all the awkwardness of carrying around a laptop. So if it comes down to it, maybe I have to. Yeah, Pip is, I don't know if I've mentioned this online anywhere, but we went to the vet last week and he is 15.5 pounds. So the vet said he's healthy, but he's not allowed to gain any more weight than that. I'm sorry, buddy. I'm sorry. But he's pretty good. He's just a big boy. All right. Let's see if there's anything else you guys are saying that I'm missing. I can't get over how big he is either. Thank you guys so much for coming in. There's only a few of you, so it's a nice, like, homey little group. I know like half of you already. So, all right. Thank you guys so much. I'll do another one of these, and I'll, of course, let you guys know first because you guys know everything first. All right. Let's figure out if I can end the stream. Have a great weekend, guys.